The New York federal case against Grammy-winning artist R. Kelly is expected to be the first of the 4 pending cases against him to go to trial. Kelly is accused of having sex with underage girls. The New York case alleges that he also gave a girl herpes without disclosing that he had the disease. In 2008, Kelly was found not guilty in a child pornography case. The latest charges surfaced following the Lifetime documentary series Surviving R. Kelly, which featured alleged victims' stories of manipulation and abuse.
I would give my life for my justice and any other woman you validated.
R. Kelly has consistently denied any wrongdoing, saying any relationships were consensual and the girls were all of the age of consent. He lost his composure during a 2019 interview with Gayle King on CBS This Morning.
I'm fighting for my life. Y'all killing me with this. I gave y'all 30 years of my career.
Robert.
30 years of my career.
Right now, you're obviously getting a one-sided take on R. Kelly. You're getting snippets of video that are produced and packaged in a way to make him the worst possible. And you got to remember, we're talking about allegations that in some instances are 20 to 25 years ago by persons who have already testified and or given statements under oath saying something that's absolutely contrary to what they're saying today.
So R. Kelly, R&B superstar, has, cases everywhere. You talk about state court in Illinois, federal court in Illinois, and 2 federal cases in New York, one of which will be the first trial set to go, which has now been rescheduled from July to September. They're working on a jury questionnaire. But in the meantime, they're still trying to get R. Kelly out of jail, get him released. And the big question is he a risk of flight? Is he a risk to the community? Let's bring in Ashley Banfield. If you haven't heard the big headline from today, which is the big headline today, Ashley. So Ashley's back with Court TV, special contributor. Let me ask you this first, Ashley. Were you ever a fan of R. Kelly? Be honest here.
I believe I Can Fly. I didn't buy his music, but I didn't buy a lot of music. I was just sort of a passing fan. I was a huge fan of someone like Prince. And so when news erupted about Prince, it affected me deeply. Not so much about R. Kelly, although I'm always fascinated when someone who's so successful and is in the public eye finds themselves in such a sticky wicket.
So here, one of the issues for whether or not he should be granted bond in this case is that the prosecution is arguing, the feds are arguing that, listen, this guy's got money, he's got people on the outside who are figuring out a way to get him out and then just hide him somewhere. Whereas R. Kelly's attorneys filed papers today saying, listen, what's going on with all these people making plans that have nothing to do with R. Kelly? These are people on social media just chatting, and he doesn't have money. He's got a $2 million government lien, a tax lien on him. So do you think the guy who thought he could fly, believed he could fly, is an actual flight risk?
Well, gosh, that whole idea about him having a network of people who will support him if he decides to flee, that is a really intriguing question, because I think we can all look at other cases of people who not only were facing indictment, but at one point in their lives, these famous people were even convicted and still had legions of fans that would show up and do anything. I'm thinking about Michael Jackson back during his trial when all of those people came to the courthouse. One woman brought all the doves to release them. I think that network of fans issue is honestly a serious one. I do believe that if R. Kelly had no money and owes the feds $1.8 million in taxes, I think there are people who would help R. Kelly. Now, I also think, Vinny, it's very hard to get on a commercial airplane right now without being extremely obvious. So that's a strike against the prosecutor's argument that he could fly. But maybe there are other ways to get around. And certainly if you have fans who have a lot of money, you can skirt that.
Do you think he's a risk to the community? Because that's another part of this, right? The charges against him, especially in the world we're living in now where we're supposed to be social distancing, He's accused of doing the opposite of social distancing.
Good point. So I prefacing it with saying, if he is guilty of these charges, he's definitely dangerous to the community, right? However, in the interim, I go back to someone like Jeffrey Epstein. When Jeffrey Epstein was sentenced to 18 months in that sweetheart deal in Florida and was serving in the county jail, he was allowed to get out every day to go to his office. I don't know if people know this, but that sweetheart deal was even sweeter than we knew. He was going back and forth to his office every single day. He had paid a few guards to pick him up at the jail, take him to his office, stand guard outside of his office doors. And guess what happened? Vinny, he assaulted other girls during that work release. So, danger to the community when you're a sex offender or an alleged sex offender in R. Kelly's case. Yeah, that's a dangerous, dangerous game to play because it's not something you can just turn on and turn off.
How about this? So I've spoke with Steve Greenberg many times, and his big concern is he's got a client who can't read or write. He's got hundreds of thousands of documents. It's going to take hundreds of hours to prepare for this trial, and he can't do it because he's not going into the jail. How is an attorney supposed to prepare for a trial under circumstances like this where you can't spend that time with your client?
I think that's a super legitimate point to make. The fact that R. Kelly, first of all, I didn't even know that. So I was kind of astounded at the fact that somebody who's so incredibly musically artful can't read or write. But okay. I think that makes it very clunky for the process, and he has due process. And that lawyer makes a very good point. It's not fair for that lawyer to go into the MCC because it's a dangerous place. In just a few days, they doubled their cases of coronavirus, right? However, if R. Kelly at the Chicago MCC can make video appearances for his New York case, well, then there's technology that can probably be engineered to help R. Kelly and other inmates like him to have privileged conversations with their attorneys to prepare for their upcoming trials. I get it. Hacks are a problem. We all deal with it. But if Jamie Dimon can have JP Morgan Chase chief can have conversations that are critical and he can keep them encrypted, I think the jails could probably figure out a way to have encrypted conversations on laptops or on phones that are cleaned and disinfected for those inmates to have critical conversations with their attorneys.
It's going to have to happen. It's the only way we can prepare for these trials when we get back to them.
Yeah.
Ashley Banfield, once again,
life.
Great to have you aboard. We're going to see you tomorrow night, right?
Oh, you bet. As long as it went okay tonight, we'll check in with the bosses, see who's all right. I don't know, the hair, the makeup's all, it's all a DIY project.
Awesome. Great to see you, Ashley.
You too, Ben.